Mark your calendars because Logan Circle's Dog Days Summer Sidewalk Sale is back for its 26th year. Saturday, August 1st, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Come shop exclusive sidewalk deals, limited time discounts, and special promotions from dozens of Logan Circle's favorite local businesses. It's free, it's fun, and every purchase supports the independent shops and restaurants that make this neighborhood so special. You can expect pop-up vendors, outdoor shopping, and a great neighborhood vibe. And of course, you gotta bring the dog because yes, it is dog-friendly. So grab your friends and family and make a whole day of it. Head to districtbridges.org for the full list of participating businesses.
Today on CityCast DC, DC taxpayers, that is you, spent $220 million last year on overtime for public safety agencies. How did this happen? According to a new report from DC Auditor Kathy Patterson, one reason is that agencies are chronically understaffed, which means the bosses need to pay overtime to get the job done. But her report found a bunch of other weird stuff about how our government is being managed. Workers at one of the agencies she studied took an average 9 weeks of leave a year, including an average whole week AWOL. How does this happen and what does this mean? Kathy is here to explain. Today is Tuesday, July 28th. I'm Michael Schaefer. Here's what DC is talking about. Hey, before we get started, a quick note. We're doing our annual survey to learn more about our listeners. We would be grateful if you took the survey at dc.citycast.fm/survey. It's only 7 minutes long. You'll be doing us a big favor. Plus, anyone who takes the survey will be eligible to win a $250 Visa gift card and some cool CityCast DC swag. Okay, on to the interview. Kathy Patterson, welcome back.
Good to see you. Good to be with you.
So listen, your most recent audit dives into DC's, the various agencies of public safety in DC, the police, fire department, corrections, so on. And specifically, you look at the cost of overtime pay, $220 million. That's a lot of money.
It sure is, yes.
So can you explain what overtime means? I don't mean, I know it means working beyond your shift, but why is it used? What does it say about an organization when it's using a lot of it?
Well, in some cases, it's something that is inescapable. For the police department, absolutely. If you're a homicide detective and someone was just killed, you're going to be working 24, 48 hours. And that's really critical in that particular role in terms of trying to solve that crime right away. Beyond some of those immediate issues like that, overtime can be controllable, can be limited, can be disciplined. And so one of the reasons we wanted to take a look at not just the hours and the dollars, but maybe some of the other factors going into this was to try to ascertain whether in tight budget times, whether there's some issues to look at here from a management standpoint.
So this has been part of the debate in the last few years about what the ideal size is of the police department and other agencies. Basically, when you have fewer officers who work for you total, there is a bigger tendency to use a lot of overtime to make up for that.
That is true, but we also have a police department that I think historically, perhaps not most recently, but historically has been used to having a lot of options for discretionary overtime. And district commanders will say, I have this coming up, I have these officers who want to be off, I want some discretionary overtime. So there are some ways in which some of that discretionary overtime can be controlled.
But in your report, the most shocking numbers were about the Department of Corrections, which is about 60% lower than it should be. You write that they need 1,762 people to fill all their 24/7 posts, and they've got 704 of them. And so they are spending a ton of money giving overtime to these 704 because they haven't hired enough people. Is that the right interpretation?
That is absolutely a correct interpretation. And the gap between what it would take to fill all those 24/7 jobs. And again, if you have a jail, you've got to have people there 24/7. You've got to, be guarding folks. You just have to have people in those posts. And they do not have anywhere near what they have said in their staffing studies and their staffing outline. They don't have anywhere near what they need. But the other factor there at corrections is we have a jail that is way past its useful life. It is old, and it has physical attributes that require more people than you might otherwise need in a facility that was much more modern. So you don't have decent sight lines. You should have two people escorting people down the hallway to a health visit or something, and maybe you only have one person on duty. That kind of thing can be very dangerous. So it's not just a matter of not being able to hire sufficient staff, but having a facility that would require many more staff.
Well, sure, but they've got the facility. I mean, that's not a thing you can fix like today.
Right.
And whoever is in charge of the corrections department, they produce this paperwork saying how many people they need, and then they don't hire them. What is the reason why they don't hire them? What's their excuse?
I don't know. This was a data brief. We didn't do a lot of interviews. We looked at the numbers and what the numbers can tell us. But that's a very good question. And it's one of the questions that we really need to get answered by the executive. The director there probably would very much like to have an awful lot more correctional guards and could use them. Whether the administration has said, no, we're not going to hire another 700 guards. They probably have said that. That's an issue for policymakers to debate. So one of the reasons we do these kinds of reports is to simply put them out there and say, okay, have at it. Let's get some more questions out there and some more answers out there.
So are there similar problems with other departments where, leaving aside the sort of discretionary overtime and that kind of thing, they are just below where they should be staffing wise, and you've got to make it up by paying people time and a half or whatever you have to pay?
Absolutely. The other one where there is really a sharp difference between what they need and what they have is the Office of Unified Communications. That's the agency that runs our 911 call center. And they have been actually trying pretty hard to hire more. And they have had budget increases in the last couple of years. They are making headway there. So they have fewer staff, fewer shifts today without a full complement of call takers and dispatchers than a year ago, than 2 years ago. But they're not where they need to be. And so they too have 24/7 posts. You have to have people answering those phones. You have to have dispatchers dispatching. So they need more staff in both those categories. And that is driving the overtime at the OUC.
What do you get paid in overtime compared to a regular salary?
Well, it's at least time and a half, but there are a lot of different categories of the kind of overtime that you get. And I think it ranges across some of these agencies. I know the police department has some kind of unusual categories of overtime. For example, in their collective bargaining agreement, police in DC get overtime, even if they're working straight time, even if it's within their 40 hours a week, if they didn't get sufficient notice about a schedule change. So if I work Monday through Thursday and all of a sudden this week I have to work Friday, I get overtime for that Friday, even though it's a part of a 40-hour work week. And that's something that's in the collective bargaining agreement. That's an issue that speaks to the police belief that they need, a lot of lead time to change a schedule. But it also speaks to one of the issues that could see better management.
Right, or better contract negotiating.
Right, one or both.
So you have worked in and around government a long time. And like we all know, there are problems in the labor market post-COVID, that the difficulty or ease of hiring really fluctuated. Hiring for law enforcement has been particularly difficult because it's such a sort of fraught moment. You sort of mentioned this before about whether was the executive branch telling the agencies, hey, don't go do any hiring right now. I'm curious if there is something else preventing any of these agencies from hiring more folks. Is it the market? Or is there stuff internally, procedures that sort of regular people may not know about?
I think there probably are some other factors. You mentioned police, and there is a need for more police officers nationally. So we are competing, and we are competing in this particular market. We're competing with these gigantic bonuses that are being given out by some of the federal agencies, like the immigration agencies, so that there is a competition in this market, but also nationally, particularly for police officers. I think there are some other factors here. I think correctional guards don't make a very high salary. I think call takers, that's also not a particularly high paid occupation. I think there is a growing recognition among policymakers that we have tough budget times today and in the foreseeable future. That makes any request by an agency director for more money, for more positions, that just makes that a huge challenge where you're measuring one need against another need against another need. So there are a lot of those factors. And then a final one I guess I could mention could be the possibility that who wants to take a high stress job? Who wants to be at the other end of being blamed for a 911 incident where something goes very badly wrong? So I worry that this has kind of a cascading effect, that if an agency clearly needs more staff and there are problems that arise because of a lack of staff, and then you get high stress and you get a high number of folks not showing up for work, I mean, it can be a kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy of having a difficulty hiring people.
One of the other things you report, though, did not have to do with the total headcount, but with leave. I was amazed by some of these numbers, that people in one of the agencies are taking an average 9 weeks a year of leave. I would like 9 weeks of leave a year. How is it that this happens?
Well, this is one of the big management challenges that we wanted to get out there. Again, the person who put this report together for us is Mark Jordan, who you may know from the work he's done in the last several years, doing oversight of juvenile justice facilities, as the person who ran the now defunct Office of Independent Juvenile Justice Facilities Oversight. And this was an issue within the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services of people simply not showing up for work, taking leave without pay, people just who aren't there. And that has helped drive overtime. So when he stayed to work with us, we wanted him to take a look at these other agencies to see if the same issue was a factor in overtime at some of the other public safety agencies where, as you say, there's a resounding answer of yes, this is an issue, where the average across the 4 agencies in this issue brief from 8 to 11 hours of leave per year. And the one that was, I think, most shocking was an average of 1 week a year at the Office of Unified Communications, where staff were away without leave. That to me is just amazing. Think of that, a week a year among dispatchers.
But if I didn't show up for a week, I might get fired. You might too.
You might get fired, you might.
Why doesn't that happen? I mean, I guess because they don't, I guess the workers have leverage since they don't have enough people to start with, but where is the discipline here?
Which is a very good question. And I don't have the answer for that. Again, this was in a data brief looking at numbers. So lots more questions to be answered by our policymakers. But I think at least at the Office of Unified Communications, they have tried a couple of strategies. One of them a year or more ago was paying bonuses to people who showed up consistently. You come in every day for your entire 40-hour week.
Participation trophy.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. But again, that was one of the reasons for that, because people were simply not coming to work. So those who did got a reward. And I think, I applaud, trying different strategies to address this. But one of the things we are doing, because of the issue surfaced in this brief, we're initiating another audit looking at a sample of agencies and looking at their leave without pay and their being absent without leave, and seeing what kind of policies, what kinds of strategies, what kinds of discipline is happening sort of across the government on these issues.
This may be beyond the scope of what you guys looked into, but do you have a sense of whether Washington, D.C. is an outlier among similar cities, or is this stuff that is going on among our peers?
I honestly don't know. I think it's something that that we probably should be looking into. I suspect, and this is, just suspicion without any evidence of not looking into it. I suspect this might be something that has arisen post-pandemic. I think we probably have, a lot of us in the working world got used to working from home, got used to working in our slippers and our soft clothes, and maybe showing up at the office 5 days a week or 6 days a week, became something that we were accustomed to not doing. So it may be that the simply not showing up for work phenomenon is something that has happened just in recent years. I don't know. I think, again, more good questions that need answering here.
So before I let you go, you are the city auditor. You work for the DC Council. You compile these reports. You investigate. You dig in. You publish them. What happens then?
On this one, we're certainly going to be continuing to share it with the policymakers, and I hope that these questions can be at least part of the annual performance hearings in January and February next year, if not the subject of hearings in the fall. But I think one of the reasons we share our reports with the affected agencies is we hope they take the information and use the information. And as I said, the OUC in particular has been trying to do some hiring, and maybe that's something that we'll see more of across the government. We know the police department has been trying with various and sundry policies and different attractions to try to get folks to come in the front door. So there is some attention being paid to these issues. I think there has been less attention paid to the leave issues that we've just been talking about. And I hope that's something that the council will take up.
Kathy Patterson, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
And that is all for today here on CityCast DC. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend, rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our morning newsletter. We will be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye.